as ready as we're going to be, right? We're as ready as we're going to be.
I'm great.
All right.
Are these unmuted? Yet. Oh.
Okay, I think we're about as ready as we're going to be.
Whew. Truth. We have a couple more chairs over here that are in the blazing sun if you'd like to grab one and take it to the shade.
Yeah, and hey, if you need to get out of the sun for any reason, there's shelters over here. You can gather under the tent. You can go inside if you want. You could even, you could go inside in the air conditioning and watch the live stream on your phone for all we care. We just appreciate you guys for coming. Thank you so much. Really pouring ourselves into this is the only way we've managed to keep our sanity during all this. So thank you guys so much for coming out. So I'm Aaron Howell.
And my name is Adria Herscher, and we're Brian's siblings. This is the big brother, and I'm the middle child. We'd like to welcome you on behalf of our parents, Mike and Bobby Sue Howell. Wave, Mom and Dad. Where are you?
Somewhere.
They're somewhere. They're hosting. Give them a hug. We'd love to invite you to our celebration of life for our baby brother, Brian Stuart Howell.
So just before we get started, a couple quick housekeeping items and some shout-outs we want to give. First of all, thanks to all the artists who donated art for this, for the T-shirts. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to let you guys know ahead of time it is perfectly appropriate to applaud at this event.
Yeah.
Brian was a party animal and a
Yes.
rock and roller, and he would not have been terribly wild about a morose, morbid event. So it is perfectly acceptable to laugh and to applaud and make noise and whistle and shout and all that stuff. So just so you know ahead of time. Thank you, Vinny. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Vinny.
So thanks to all the artists who donated their time and talent. Jake Fairley and Josh Finley, who designed the T-shirts over there. We're selling those for $20 a piece. All the proceeds from that are going to go to diabetes research. I think the charity we chose was diabetesresearchinstitute.org. So go ahead and check that out. Also, Tessa Fritzler Klontz, who did the charcoal drawing. No? Okay, never mind. Tessa's awesome anyway. All right. Thanks to all the neighbors for helping with dealing with Brian's vehicles. That really took a load off of us. Jim next door and Eldon up the street for helping with the motorcycle. Thank you so much, guys. It means a lot. Thanks to everyone for the text messages, phone calls, emails, Facebook comments. The outpour of support from the community has just been amazing. And I know we didn't get back to people like everyone, maybe necessarily. I bailed out of town for 2 days as soon as I found out and just spent 2 days in a pile out in the wilderness with my wife and my baby boy just falling to pieces. So we really appreciate it. It has gone a long way in helping us through this. Thank you to Jeremiah Ludeman from Primary Focus Media. He loaned us the equipment to show the slideshow in there. We were going to do a projection screen, but 2 o'clock in the afternoon in the middle of August.
We do have a screen right here by the food. We also have the same slideshow of any pictures you uploaded of our baby brother inside, right downstairs.
Oh, also, every time we say baby brother, you got to take a drink. So we're going to say it a lot. Yeah. There's tons of White Claw out there, so if any of you basic biatches feel like getting wasted. All right, I also want to give a big shout-out to the guys from the Nug Nation for coming out and running the live stream. We're running a 2-camera live stream on YouTube Live right now. So Jared and Mikey and Max, I love you guys. Thank you so much for coming out and doing this. I really appreciate it.
And hello if you're watching from the live stream.
Yeah,
We
hello,
love you.
Internet.
Hi, Mackenzie.
Thanks to Andrew Williams from Blackout Screen Printing, who did all the T-shirts for the Costa garments. He donated his labor and his time and turned it around really fast. He was on the most recent episode of our podcast, and he's a really sweet guy, good friend. Rocket Space for loaning us the PA equipment. Thank you so much for that. I want to give a big shout-out and tons of love to Brian's roommates, Luke and Jamie and Harrison. Especially Jamie, I know it's been very hard for them, probably, and I would say equally as hard for them as it has been for us. They were very tight with Brian, and we just appreciate the hell out of you guys. Ashley Jennings for sharing the professional photos that you took of him that we used in the songbook. And what else did we use them on? They're in the slideshow. They're on the magnets. Okay, you got to explain the magnets. You'll explain the magnets later?
They're not out
Okay.
yet.
Okay.
They're not out yet.
I want to give a shout out to the Gail Roth family, especially Jim Gail Roth, for working his ass off on this deck to make sure that it was ready in time. Seriously, every time I've come over here, he's been working around the clock on that deck. So it is safe. Enjoy it. Just don't take the stairs because they don't exist. So
Yeah, we do have just over here by the shirts. We do have the Howell family songbook of the music we'll be doing today for the ceremony. We made 100 copies. I think a lot
You might
more
have to
people
share.
showed up. So maybe take one for a pair of you. Please pass those around to honor Brian.
So the point behind that is years ago after a family reunion, one of the things that we do at family gatherings, and we're going to play a bunch of the songs from our family repertoire, is we get together and Uncle Skip plays the guitar and we sit around and we sing songs and have a good time, and it's something that's always been a tradition of ours. And after our last family reunion, Brian had expressed his desire to make a family songbook. So rather than a program for the event, I made a first edition songbook up. Heads up, the lyrics to Somewhere Over the Rainbow are wrong. So it's a first edition with a typo. Very rare. Anyway, and so special thanks to the Krosky family for taking care of the printing. Jesse, seriously, I owe your parents so big for that. These things turned out beautiful and they look great. So that's so you guys can sing along with us. Yeah. Oh, and the biggest ultimate shout out to Fire on the Mountain.
Woo!
Brian worked there for a long time. He hasn't worked there since December. I got hired in February. This company gave Brian medical leave when he broke his heels. They gave me family leave when my son was born. When Brian passed away, they gave me 2 weeks paid bereavement leave. They donated money to the diabetes charity. They have brought food to the event today. What else did they do? Oh, they arranged grief counseling for their staff who were friends with Brian. They're just the most amazing company in the world, and no matter what happens in my life, I will always be loyal to you guys. So Fire on the Mountain Buffalo Wings, check them out. They just opened a new store. Yeah, buddy. Store 2.
Yay.
Colorado, store 2.
Thanks, Mackenzie.
So I love you guys. So first and foremost, we wish to pay tribute to and honor our dear brother, Brian, in a manner of which he would have been proud. Our brother to us deserves to be more than a week of Facebook tributes, an obituary, and I like to think we had a deep mutual and reciprocal love and admiration for one another. We are not an especially religious family in a dogmatic sense. For all we know, Brian could be in a paradise in the clouds. He could be springing into existence through some other manifest form somewhere else on the planet. He could be haunting a house somewhere playing pranks on the residents. We don't know. Who can say for sure? But for the purposes of this ritual, we'll act as though he is sitting here among us, beaming in the warmth of our praise, laughing as we joke at his expense, and covering his face with embarrassment as we regale in the many tales of his foibles and triumphs. We will conduct ourselves as though he has simply retired from one plane of existence to the eternal exploration of whatever might be that waits us after this life.
Secondly, it is our desire to provide a welcome environment in which Brian's friends, family, colleagues, and acquaintances can join together and process their grief however each individual sees. Here in this home, you're free to laugh, cry, tell stories, curse, blame, stuff your face, cry your guts out, or drown your sorrows if it helps you to process the type of pain which language alone cannot begin to relate. All we ask is that everyone here treat everyone else here with respect and courtesy. We're all here to grieve, but not at the cost of anyone else's safety or sanity.
Just be cool.
If you're
factor which led to Brian's death, it is the factor around which all the other factors orbited. Brian was in a tremendous amount of pain and suffered greatly from his incurable illness, and we want to make a contribution in his name with the hope that it will make even the smallest steps towards saving another from the suffering experienced by Brian and all of us in the wake of his sudden death. We welcome you all to pick up some T-shirts. We only have 50 total. Suggested donation of $20. My parents don't need help with the expenses. They have said very explicitly that they just want money to go to diabetes research. So if you want to make a direct contribution, you can go to diabetesresearch.org and make a contribution in my brother's name. Now, one last thing before we get into it. By show of hands, how many of you feel angry at the doctors, at God, at the world, politicians, even Brian himself? Okay. All right.
How many of you feel saddened by the unfairness in this world and the tragedy of losing someone so young, or the seamless, meaningless of life?
And how many of you feel afraid, hurt, guilty, or any other number of painful emotions at this moment? I know I feel a ton of them. Good. You're in good company. Everyone here is with you.
That being said, we're so honored.
We are here to honor Brian.
We're here to honor Brian motherfucking Howell.
That's right.
Right? So let's do our best. Yes. Let's do our best, sorry, Grandma, to mourn this passing with a spirit of love and laughter intact. We encourage you to laugh when things are funny and cry when they're sad, and applaud, like we said, by words. Yeah, well, go ahead.
When you were moved by words well said or music well played, because we're going to play the shit out of some songs here.
Yes, we are.
So, yeah, surrogate bonus parents were Jim and Roxanne Gail Roth, and we'd like to have them come up and say a few words on behalf of the Gail Roth family. So please welcome Jim and Roxanne Gail Roth.
So, how long have we known them? When we moved into our house across the street from Bobby Sue and Mike and their kids, Amy and Aaron were 3, and Adrian, Jared were just 1, and there was no Brian or Becky yet. And probably my first memory of Brian is Bobby Sue coming over and saying, "I'm pregnant," and me saying, "Me too." So that was it. And Brian, I wanted to say 3 things. 1, he really treasured family. He always gave us like crazy fun Christmas cards, and we went to watch him like drum, and he came off right afterwards and gave us a big hug and said, "Thanks for coming. You're like my parents." It was big. And then when we did our backyard circus, Aaron, of course, wanted to be the master of ceremonies or whatever, the ringmaster, and Adria was like the clown mother, and Brian was the strong man, and he ripped apart the phone book and held up the big weights. So that was fun. Right? And then what else did I want to say? I had 3 things. When he was in kindergarten, we went, I don't know why, we were picking them up or whatever, and his teacher was like, "Well, Brian got in a little trouble today," and I sent him to Australia, which was like the time out. And I look over there, and he's gone. And she's like, "So, Brian, do you want to tell them?" And he's like, "Australia was boring. He went to the playground and was swinging." And so that just is, that's him. I can't remember my other thing either.
That was it. You said all 3.
Okay.
As Rox was saying, we've known these guys since forever. I mean, we lived across the street from them for over 30 years, and there's a lot of memories that we remember. One of my fondest memories is when my daughter Becky and Brian, the same age, and they were out front, and they were having an argument about whose dad was better than whose dad. And Becky said, well, my dad works, and Brian said, "Well, my dad works too." And then Brian said, "But my dad's really tall." And Becky then said, "Well, my dad's really strong." And then Brian said, "Well, my dad's a policeman and he has a gun." And basically, there's no comeback for that when you're a 4-year-old. I mean, that's the wild card. You win when you say that. That's one of the stories I remember about him. Another few things. I remember when he went through his phases. I remember when he was straight edge, and I said, "This is an interesting phase." I said, "He'll come through it." I said, "They always do," and he did. And then another thing, like my wife said, we tried to support him in his bands, and we'd go to watch him drum with the 2 different bands he drummed with. And like she said, the first thing he'd do is he'd come off and give us a big hug and say, "Boy, I appreciate you guys coming to see us. You're like a second mom and dad to me." And it was a lot. It really meant a lot to us that he felt that way about us. The last thing I have to say about Brian is that I got a chance to chat with him on Monday before he passed away. and he was wearing that same suit that Aaron, and it was a cool suit, and he'd just come back from court, and he was feeling pretty good about himself. He said, "Yeah, I rented a storage place, and I'm going to put my stuff there, and I'm going to get a big enough one where I can work on my motorcycle there. And I'm looking at getting everything straightened out so I can get moving on." So it was kind of a shock that things went the way they did, and we are going to really miss him. But you know what? We still loved him and had a great time with him when he was here. Thanks a lot.
Keep it going for him, guys. Keep it going. We got to keep the energy up, man. We got to keep the energy up, or we'll all fall apart. Yes, this is my brother's suit. I put it on when I took it to Men's Warehouse, and I'm like, oh my God, it's almost a perfect fit. And the German seamstress lady was like, well, we'll have to take it out a little bit. I'm working on my dad bod. Hi, Boogie, I love you. Yeah. Our next speaker, I really went out of my way to get people who were around for different stages of Brian's life, and one of Brian's very good friends from his youth and Boy Scouts and the Solomonsons have been friends of ours for a very, very long time. And so when Brian was a young man, he was pretty much inseparable from a young man by the name of Matthew Solomonson out there. And I'd like you all to welcome Matt up to the stage. Come talk. I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
All right, well, this is my first time ever really speaking in front of anybody big like this, and unfortunately it has to be this setting, which is pretty tragic to hear, especially once I heard everything. I do have many, many memories of Brian. A couple that really stick out pretty big is a lot are kind of related to Boy Scouts when we were younger. One of the big ones I was just telling my family last night about was one morning waking up from summer camp, and Brian was no longer in the tent anymore, and he had actually rolled out and slept outside all night with everything. Many, many memories with all that, especially Boy Scouts. We've had numerous trips to our lock-ins where we stay up all night and play around at a local rec center. It's kind of crazy. I mean, I know he has touched a lot of people in his lifetime, especially with his music career, him coming to school, changing schools, and coming over to Sheridan and everything, and then the groups that he has impacted there, and his music industry there as well. So he was a pretty great kid, and he's going to be missed tremendously. Thank you.
Can you guys hear everything okay? Right on. So this song is
Oh, yes, we did.
so this is actually not one from the family repertoire. This is a Steve Earle song. Oh shit, sorry. And
It's not the Piano Man.
that was
Sorry.
one of the first songs I learned to play
Sorry,
on
Stacy.
harmonica. By the way. So Steve Earle writes a lot of songs that are kind of from the perspective of maybe people who have fallen between the cracks or are even pariahs in society. And he wrote a lot of songs. He's fiercely against the death penalty, which, however you feel about that is whatever. But he wrote a lot of songs about men on death row. And this song is one that I like to play when I'm feeling sorry for myself. And then after Brian passed away, just it took on a new meaning, and there's some elements in it that really rang true for Brian as I listened to him. So this is this is a Steve Earle song called "Over Yonder."
Page 1 of your songbook. Is it even page 1? Yes.
I'm in the right spot, right?
Yes.
Warden said he'd mail my letter. Me. There's another place beyond here where I'll be free, I believe. I suppose I've got it coming. I can never pay enough. With all my ripping and running, I hurt everyone I love. The world will turn around without me. The sun will come up in the east, shining down on all of them that hate me. I hope my going brings them peace.
'Cause
I'm going over yonder, where no ghosts can follow me. There's another place beyond here where I'll be free. That's what I believe.
Sounding sexy, man.
God, that song's a bummer. Biscuit, are you ready? Can you be ready? See if, are you ready? Yeah, man. So it could safely be said that that Josh was Brian's best friend at the end of life, for sure. They spent a lot of time together. Josh helped him through a lot of things. We know him as Biscuit. Biscuit even lived with us for a little while when I was a teenager. We've known each other well over 20 years, and for a little while, I don't know how we talked him into it, but my dad even let Biscuit stay on the floor in my room for a bit. So, yeah, he ended up becoming very, very, very close friends with my brother. So please welcome Josh Biscuit Hernandez to the microphone.
Yeah, I got a little bigger, a little grayer. Somebody decided they liked me and stayed with me long enough to have kids. So, well, like Aaron said, I used to live with the Howells when I was young and going through some stuff with my parents. And I met Brian then, and he was 10 years old, I think. And we were not very nice to him. We would tie him to chairs and beat him up and all of these things. And then, you know, as you do, you move on and you grow. And he did his own thing, and we did ours. And I would see him periodically, and we would sort of reconnect. But then we started working together at Fire on the Mountain, and he would tell the stories about us beating him up. He would introduce other people to that. And finally, I went to him one day and asked for his forgiveness. And he just laughed in his nasally voice and said, "Don't worry about it. I forgave you years ago." After that, he and I just bonded. We spent the last 4 years talking to each other, if not every day, every week, seeing each other every other day. And he made my life better when I was low. He made everyone feel better when he was around. Sorry.
You rock, dude.
He was patient and understanding, and he never let on how much he was hurting inside. And he took all of us and he brought us the happiness that we have right now. And I love him to death. He's more than my best friend. He's one of my favorite people. And I love him and I love you all. Thank you.
Hey, everybody say hi to Abe and Braden from Hangman's Hymnal. Their band is pretty much just one long funeral dirge, so I figured it would be appropriate to have them come sit in with us. Yeah, they came and jammed with us, man, and it's just been such an honor having you guys. And Mike on the sax, dude. He just showed up. He's like, "I brought my sax. I can play." And I went, "Okay. Let's see how funny would it be if he just got up and just let out screeching honks nonstop through the whole thing? But it's a memorial, so everybody feels too bad to call him out on it. All right, this is a Simon and Garfunkel tune. Can you guys hear this guitar out there?
I'm just a poor boy and my story's seldom told. I have squandered my resistance for a pocket full of mumbles, such are promises. All lies and just still the man hears what he wants to hear, disregards the rest. When I left my home, my family, I was no more than a boy in the company of strangers, standing at the railway station, money scared, laying low, seeking out the poor quarter, where the ragged people go, looking for the places only they would know. La la la, la 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 la. Asking only workmen's wages, I go looking for a job, but I get no offer. Just to come out from the wars on 7th Avenue. I do declare There were times when I was so lonesome, took some comfort there. La da 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 da.
Take it, Braden.
Now I am laying down my winter clothes, wishing I were home, going home, where the New York City winters are not bleeding me, going home. In the clearing stands a boxer and a fighter by his tray, and he carries a reminder of every love that laid him out, or kept him till he cried out in his anger and his shame. I am leaving, but fire still remains. La 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 la, la 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 la, la la la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la.
Pretty cool, guys. Little fun family fact. Generally, we never even had the tambourine. We would use cookie sheets, right? Yeah. For the big. Are Oscar or Darren here? Anywhere? No? Okay. Darren is here. Darren, do you want to come up and say some words? Please give it up to my man Darren Garcia here, coming to say some words. Thank you so much for coming, brother.
How's it going, everybody? So this one time back in high school, we used to go to this park. They used to live right over here off like Bellevue, like Kipling kind of area. We used to go to this park and we used to play paintball, like paintball wars, but we used to do it with slingshots. You remember that? We used to do it with slingshots instead of paintball guns. Well, this one time, Brian, he had the bright idea to go and hide a few paintball guns over at the park before we had this huge war, and we were, we went over there and we were kind of posted up like snipers by this little bridge area, and everybody's running around, and we just start shooting people with the paintball guns. And, Brian being Brian, I look up and he's staring at me. He starts shooting me with the paintball gun, ditches the gun, takes off with the slingshot, he's running around with all the people. My slingshot, for whatever reason, breaks as soon as I try to use it. So now I have the paintball gun. Lo and behold, everybody's just going after me now and just chasing me all around, and I'm the bad guy, and thanks, Brian. Yeah, I'm going to miss him a lot. I know we all loved him very much, and, love you, Brian. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks so much, brother. We appreciate it. I mean, one of the reasons, as Brian's brother, as his family, there's so many dark spots in his life. You know, we only knew really this much of his life. You know, you have this whole life outside of your family, and so I wanted to make sure we got some people up here who had some things that could fill in some of the dark spots. I really want my infant son over there. Everybody say hi to my son Ransom over there. Hey, Boogie. I really want him to be able to watch this later and learn about his uncle. So he only got to meet him twice, unfortunately. Speaking of family, I'd like to welcome to the mic Brian's second favorite aunt, probably. Second or third, easily. I mean, he's only got like 3, so 3 or 4. So, you know, you're not dead last, I don't think. This is my Aunt Dawn, everybody. Say hello.
So I have a different perception of Brian. Brian was a handful. And he was not going to let anybody tell him what to do, let alone his aunt. And I think it's funny because Bobby Sue told me, and it's really true, that Brian's spirit animal was a pit bull. And I didn't even know this, you guys, but after Brian died, I suddenly felt this sudden urge to befriend Murphy, which you have to realize I was scared to death of Murphy, right? So anyways, the first time Murphy came out, my dog was out here too, and Murphy I was like scared of because of all the media hype, and I just kind of wanted like, oh, I can't bring my dog over here because Murphy will eat him. And Bobby Sue was like, Dawn, you need to relax, which she pretty much has been telling me my whole life. But so then Brian's passed away, and I'm like, all of a sudden I felt in my heart, I have to know Murphy. So I creep downstairs, and Bobby Sue is with me, and I go down and I sit very still on the couch, and I'm thinking, then Murphy comes up and up to me and kind of sniffs me and is fine. And then I'm thinking, okay, that was good. And I petted him, and I felt sad and everything. So the next time, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to try saying hi again. So this time, Bobby Sue's already downstairs, and I come downstairs, and they have a door downstairs that is shut. And so I think, well, I'm just going to go down there. Well, right away, I open the door. Murphy charges me. Ah! And I'm scared shitless, you know. But I'm like, okay, breathe. I'm Yahoo, or whatever. And Murphy kind of sniffs me. And then he kind of goes like, okay, you can come in. And I came down, and I sat down, and I cuddled Murphy. And Murphy was fine, you know. So then, and my son, Marlon, always loved Murphy. So I know you guys think I'm funny, the people that honor pit bulls. So the next time that I came down after that, I was like, Murphy and I kind of became buddies for the first time. And I would actually go out and say hi to Murphy without anybody being there. You know, I was a little cautious, but it's funny. But I understood Brian after that. Brian, his spirit animal was a pit bull in some ways. Because if you were, number one, he was incredibly loyal to his friends. And he loved his core family with all of his heart. And I mean, like, his brothers and sisters and mom and dad were there. The second person I know he really was incredibly close to is his grandma, Helen. I don't know where she is, but he needs to know how much he loved her. And she has the box seats up here. And it's funny because after he kind of talked about that, he was going to go down to Pueblo and help take care of his grandma right before he passed away, which is kind of wild to think about. But that's how much he loved his family. And pretty much the next level out, which was his Aunt Dawn, he kind of tolerated, you know. In fact, I used to call him up when he was a kid, and he would answer the phone going like this, "What?" And I would just scold him, and I would say, Brian, if you're not going to be nice, don't answer the phone. So Brian wasn't always nice to me. And when Brian wasn't feeling good, he wasn't always nice to me. He would grumble at me. You know, so, but we loved each other. And fortunately, I was Brian's master in that he trained me how to behave. And Brian would be like saying, I'm not answering group text. And I'm one of the organizers in our family. And I was doing the reunion this last few months, organizing it. We were all doing it. And Brian trained me so that I couldn't put him in a group text because he wouldn't respond. So I started calling Brian up on the phone one-on-one. But the really wonderful thing about that, Bobby Sue, is that I was able to chat with Brian. You know, and that was a really big gift because I was able to connect to him. And the weirdest part is, to me, Brian wasn't overly affectionate. I don't think he necessarily tolerated my hugs. You know, he'd be like, "Oh, okay, Aunt Dawn, you want to hug me?" But he wasn't like somebody who gave you a bear hug, at least me. Maybe he did his buddies or his family. But at the end of our last conversation, he told me he loved me. And I remembered it because that wasn't always Brian's way with his aunt. You know, my mom and I and different people, we've been talking since. This is the other grandma. And we were saying that we regretted that we weren't always there for Brian, like we want, in hindsight, to be. And, you know, I just said to my mom, I said, you know, Mom, Brian would not, you know, it's like the Hill Gabron poem. We are, for our kids, we're the bow and they're the arrow. And we shoot it forward, and we have to let it go. And they come back to us when they want to connect to us. But if we were to call them up and say, "Hey, Brian, I thought I would just come over and visit with you," he would be like, "Yeah, I don't think so, Aunt Dawn." He wouldn't want us there. I wanted to say something I wasn't going to share in parting, but I think it's really true for all of us that are grieving all the things that we would have, should have, could have done. If we have regrets that we weren't for Brian. And I am not a religious person. But the second day I was here, I woke up in the morning and I had the most beautiful dream. And it was somewhat like this, and that all of his family and friends were all around. And there was all this love, and there was all of this beautiful acceptance from everybody. And then there was like this sudden essence that came down. And it felt like the essence of Brian. And it wasn't Brian's body, and it wasn't his, like, it was just different. It was almost like the core, the inner self of who we were. And Brian told me, or I don't know Brian, because I don't even know if I believe in this shit, but the essence of Brian said to me, "I was really in a lot of pain, and I'm free now, and I have no regrets. And I have no anger, and I love all of you guys so much." And I woke up bawling. And I've never had a dream like this in my whole entire life. And I immediately, and it's almost like, "You need to go talk to Bobby, Sue, and Mike right now." I ripped into their room. I did not knock, which I've never done this in my whole life before. I run in there. Mike is in his underwear. Bobby Sue has got her nightie halfway up around her waist. Sorry, Bobby Sue. I don't even give a shit at that point. I just run in there, and I have to cuddle my sister, and I'm bawling. And I don't know if you believe in a higher life after death or an essence, but in that moment, I felt like Brian was with us, and he wanted all of us to know that he was suffering a lot, and that he's good now, you know. And I think we all need to know that when we feel guilty about what we think we should have done, because Brian doesn't want us to feel guilty. He was loved. Thanks.
That's a true story, by the way. Yeah, that part. Yeah, jumping into bed with my mom and dad. My dad couldn't believe his luck. So this is one I remember. Brian came home for Thanksgiving one year and just started singing this song. And okay, I got to tell you guys, one of my favorite things since I've been talking, because I've been making a lot of phone calls since this whole thing went down, and everybody I've talked to has had an impersonation of my brother. It's been fantastic. They're like, "Yeah," and then I remember the last thing your brother said to me, and it was like, "Yeah, dude, that's fucking crazy," you know, like. But the thing that really stood out in my mind for this was so this is a Creedence Clearwater Revival song. My brother had this idea to start a Creedence tribute band, and we were trying to come up with a name, and he came up with the name CC Arndt. And yeah, so but when he did this, he would do the like John Fogerty, like yeah, at the end of it, and it cracked me up. So it made me think of it. So I suggested it for the set. So this is called "Have You Ever Seen the Rain?" One, two, 3, 4. Someone told me long ago, there's a calm before the storm. I know it's been coming for some time. When it's over, so they say, it'll rain a sunny day. I know, shining down like water. I want to know, have you ever seen the rain? I want to know, have you ever seen the rain? Coming down on a sunny day. Yesterday and days before, sun is cold and rain is hard. I know, been that way for all my time, till forever on it goes, through the circle fast and slow. I know, and it can't stop. I wonder, I want to know, have you ever seen the rain? I want to know, have you ever seen the rain? Coming down on a sunny day. Yeah! I want to know, have you ever seen the rain? I want to know, have you ever seen the rain? Coming down on a sunny day. When he did that for the first time, I lost my shit, man. It was so funny. Killed me. Oh, I know who I want to get up here next. So Jim mentioned the straight edge days. My brother, he was big time into the hardcore scene. He was big time into straight edge. And man, he was ruthless and tough and mean and kind of cool now that I look back on it. I want to give a shout out to a good friend who came all the way out here from Maine to be here for this and to speak on my brother's behalf. Is Rocky Hunter around here anywhere? Rocky, what's going on, man? Everybody give a big round of applause for my man Rocky Hunter for coming out. Yeah, man. Seriously, all the way from Maine, right? Dude, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, y'all. Thanks for having me. All right. Brian and I met in high school in a very odd way that would set the tone for the duration of our friendship. The Fugazi-obsessed, patriot-bashing, angst-ridden political punk band that I played in high school was invited to perform at a friend of a friend's dad's backyard seafood bake, which to a 17-year-old is a pretty solid gig. Sorry. Thank you. So we played the show, most likely very badly, and it was there that I recognized a kid from my school with dyed black hair. I said hello. We ended up chatting for a while. Long story short, it was the beginning of one of the strongest and often the strangest friendships of my life. That was the day I met the incredible life force that was Brian Howell. I remember him in those days to be funny, smart, and generally uninterested in falling in with any particular crowd, which in turn made him really well-liked, respected, popular for the right reasons, so to say. He would bend over backwards to make people laugh, sometimes winding up a joke for days, for weeks, to have it come together at the perfect moment, and you would just piss yourself in laughter. It was so funny when it did. Sometimes he would pull stuff out of thin air. One memory that I keep coming back to is I came upstairs one day. I'd spent the night at his house. I was wearing some cut-off Dickies to go to school, and he said, "Dude, you didn't tell me we were wearing cutoffs today." And he reached over, grabbed like a miracle blade out of the knife block, and just started sawing into the pants he was wearing. The scraps fell down to the floor on his shoes. He like stepped out of them, and that was Brian. Like it was anything to make somebody laugh. A few years later, we went on to play in a couple bands together. We drove a lot of miles in a van with some of our best friends to play music to basically a handful of people. We slept on strangers' floors, on the roof of the van, at venues, in the dirt. We drank gas station coffee, ate shit food, and watched what little money we had dissipate on the open road. I would describe us as generally careless, naive, impassioned, and completely intoxicated with the romance of doomed youth. These are the times that I will remember and cherish for the rest of my life. I'll remember an empty football field at 2 a.m. in Iowa, Brian chasing after us with a Roman candle in each hand, laughing. I'll remember a boathouse turned into a venue in which we were invited to play, the last notes ringing out on the amplifiers, and our entire band running out the side door and cannonballing off the dock into a lake that was so disgusting that it made all the locals like think we were the grossest human beings on the planet for doing that. Let's see. I'll remember a hole punched in the drywall of a basement somewhere in the Midwest because somebody got a little too wild during a cover of Andrew WK's Party Hard. I'll remember the times that Brian tried to punch Kevin like that drywall, all 2 times. But mostly I'll remember the times that we sat up driving, talking through the night, watching yellow lines on the black roads pass by, talking, smiling, laughing, and listening to some pretty good songs played by some pretty bad musicians, always turned up way too loud. I'll finish with saying this. The last 2 weeks have been really challenging. We lost an incredible person, and it hurts more than words can really get across. I'm trying my best to think of it in a different way. Brian also challenged us in life. He challenged us to laugh more, not to take all this shit so seriously. He challenged us to give selflessly, with no expectations of return. He challenged us to love boldly, to be in the moment and be there with friends. He challenged us to remember our own deaths and to make the absolute most of the time that we have in front of us. So in his memory, I would in turn challenge everybody here, give more, give everything, give blood. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm really bummed that this song is considered uncool by many kind of alt-country snobs. But it's one of our favorite ones to do as siblings. My sister, my brother, and I, we play this one at family gatherings.
I think we also played this one for your Dirty 30 at Three Kings.
Yeah, and he Brian showed up and surprised me for that, and was like trying to hide his face, and like he could never keep a straight face. You know what I mean? He always like had this weird thing going on where he was like laughing at the same time. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, we did play this one at the Dirty 30 at Three Kings. I forgot about that. So this is a song by Old Crow Medicine Show called Wagon Wheel. Headed down south to the land of the pine, and I'm thumbing my way up North Carolina, staring up the road, and I pray to God I see headlights. Made it down the coast in 17 hours, picking me a bouquet of dogwood flowers, and I'm a hoping for Raleigh I can see my baby tonight. So rock me, mama, like a wagon wheel. Rock me, mama, any way you feel. Hey, mama, rock me. Rock me, mama, like the wind and the rain. Rock me, mama, like a southbound train. Hey, mama, rock me. Take it, Brady. Cold up in New England, I was born to be a fiddler in an old-time string band. My baby plays the guitar, I pick a banjo now. Oh, North County winters keep getting me now. Lost my money playing poker, so I had to up and leave, but I ain't turning back to living that old life no more. So rock me, mama, like a wagon wheel. Rock me, mama, any way you feel. Hey, mama, rock me. Rock me, mama, like the wind and the rain. Rock me, mama, like a southbound train. Hey, mama, rock me. Oh yeah, let's hear that fiddle, boy. Walking through the corral without a Roanoke, I caught a trucker out of Philly, had a nice long toke. But he is headed west from the Cumberland Gap to Johnson City, Tennessee. And I gotta get a move on before the sun. I hear my baby calling and I know that she's the only one. And if I die in Raleigh, at least I will die free. So rock me, mama, like a wagon wheel. Rock me, mama, any way you feel. Hey, mama, rock me. Rock me, mama, like the wind and the rain. Rock me, mama, like a southbound train. Hey, mama, rock me. All right, guys, let's hear ya. Oh, rock me, mama, like a wagon wheel. Rock me, mama, any way you feel. Hey, mama, rock me. Rock me, mama, like the wind and the rain. Rock me, mama, like a southbound train. Hey, mama, rock me. Adria, you want to say a few words? Yeah. Oh, I don't have anything prepared.
One of my dad's favorite jokes to make.
Oh, no. Don't.
When
Please
I got
don't.
no, not that one.
Okay.
I'll let Dad tell you the strangest.
People are grieving
rest.
enough. That's all I'm saying.
No, oh my word. My dad always joked that he would come to my wedding and I've prepared a few words, and he'd just have a scroll of stuff. Yeah, my dad's a goofball. I have to find where my notes were.
I did that at Jesse and Ty's wedding, too. I that must have just, like, sunk into my brain through osmosis, through Dad making it. I didn't realize Dad made that same
So, our brother would have loved this celebration, since most of his favorite people are all in one place. And as Aunt Dawn stated, he would have hated it because of all the group texts it took to plan it. Brian hated group texts. I'd like to take a moment to thank my big brother, Aaron. He pulled out all the stops for this, and Brian would have been really proud. Also, since we haven't thanked our amazing cajon player yet, major shout out to my husband, Andy, for playing the cajon.
Andy plays the cajon? Is there anything this guy can't do?
So I jotted down some of my favorite moments with Brian, with my baby brother. Hey, okay. No? Drink. Take a drink.
The drinking game. You guys forgot already.
So when we were kids, we would play with my dad's, like, dad. Where am I from? I'm from here. We would play with my dad's, like, massive camera, and we would make videos. Do you guys remember this? Yeah. Logan, Marshall. We would make, like, videos with Dad's camera, and one of them, we put Brian outside the window. God, my face hurts from smiling so much about this. Brian let us throw raw eggs at him just for our entertainment. He was kind of mad after, but he let us do it. So one I love, too, is we all used to take karate together at the American Budo Judo College. Ha! Right? And all three of us would go. Dad would drop us off, and then probably he was like, I just need like 3 hours without these kids because we were a handful. And he'd go like looking at antique stores, and we would be in karate. And one of my favorite things about Brian is he would always, when we had to spar, he would always let me pair up with him because I was too afraid to spar with the black belts because I was much taller. So Brian just let me womp on him a lot just because I was afraid. I remember always visiting Grandma in Pueblo to bake goodies for Christmas. He talked a lot about his time in the kitchen with a lot of you guys and when we were baking goodies with Grandma. And he thought it was really funny that if you're in a kitchen and you're taking a corner, you say, corner, or something like that. And so he would walk behind me and go, farting. He was so funny. He probably did it to a lot of you guys, too. Uncle Skipper back here taught us how to moon freight trains on rafting trips. I think we even have a picture somewhere, and I don't know if it made it into the slideshow, where we went to the rock where you could jump into the water. Jumping rock. Jumping rock. As we would call it. And the picture we have of Brian, he's mooning the camera on his way into the water. We all, the three of us, would spend a lot of time trying to convince our parents that they loved one of us more than the other. So we would try to break into my mom's phone and send each other emails or texts. I think one I sent to Brian was from my mom's text. So he gets a text from Mom that says, Brian, I don't know how to tell you this, but I love Adria more. Love, Mom. So she still won't tell me her ID to get into her phone. I got my hair done recently, I know, right? By the lovely Andy Mears, and she reminded me that when I got married, and it was the night before the wedding, and we separated the men and the women, and it was like, girls only, woo, rebels. I don't know, whatever. And Brian just shows up and he gets in the hot tub with all of us. And Andy's like, Brian, or I don't know who did this. They're like, Brian is girls only. He's like, this is my fucking sister. I'm just in the hot tub with her. So he just like stretched out across the whole hot tub and we couldn't get rid of him. I'll save that one for last. We used to play, so because we took karate and because I was the only girl and I had all kinds of dress up clothes, we would dress up and play Mortal Kombat live.
That's true.
So we would all pick things out of my dress up bin and we'd be like, the finisher. Like, I don't know. We would just beat the hell out of each other in my parents' living room. And we did some damage on your couch so that I think we knocked it over. But if somebody got hurt, and it was usually me or Brian, you would just go sit on the couch and it was the hospital. And it's amazing how just a couple minutes on the hospital made you feel better. So we also, at one point, I feel like this might be, it's pretty true, but it's all true, but I just can't remember the way it laid out. We at one point had bunk beds, and I don't know who slept in the bunk beds, but you might be really mad about this now, Mom, I don't know. We used to play elevator, and we would make an elevator with a basket, and we would put Brian in the basket. And take him from the first floor to the second floor. Our elevator basket did not hold. So we jacked our brother up pretty bad when he was a kid. More recently, playing The Thing with all of us and my kids and my husband. And if you don't know the point about the Thing, it's like the movie, but there's a board game where somebody is the thing in the board game. And so Brian just tried to create chaos. And so he would look across and be like, you're the thing. And I'd be like, no, I'm human. And so he's like, that's exactly what the thing would say. So our joke was, I am human. We have a really head scratcher of a room in our basement that the previous owners left that's a putting green. Oh. Brian comes in and he's like, all right, we're going to create a game. And a couple rules of the game of Brian Ball, as it's so lovingly called. You have to putt one-handed because your other hand is drinking and you have to go. I'm currently the lowest score. I don't know because it's golf, whatever. So we love that Brian created Brian Ball in our basement. How many of you have been cheesed by Brian? You've been cheesed, son, right? So Brian thought it was really funny. I think it started at the restaurant probably, and then he did it to me. He would go around many times. He would go around to people with just cheese in his hand, and he'd go to shake your hand, and you'd be like, oh. And then he'd leave cheese in your hand. He'd be like, you meant cheese, son? So much so that I went to hold my husband's hand, and his car keys were in his hand, and he was like, you meant cheese, son? So Brian, a lot of his moments stuck out to me. And we talked about how he would save up jokes for a really long time. So we took a cruise to Alaska last year, and we would all eat at the restaurant together most nights. Some nights, we went off and did our own thing. So I had this piece of cheese in my hand. I was waiting for Brian to show up, and it was so gross and wet, and he never showed up. So I just left this gross piece of cheese because I was trying to cheese him. Anyways, my grandma, again, I told you we were all in a competition to be the favorite. So we would even count X's and O's, love grandma. And I'd be like, what? Grandma, hi. You love Brian more than me because you gave him more X's and O's. And you said, all my love were mine. You just said love. And we would do it with our parents too. And the funny thing there is my parents would put cards together and as we got older, they gave us cash. And then there was one year that they accidentally gave Andy more money than the rest of us. Because I would joke around, and I would be like, oh, you only got $100 because I got 200. And then one year, Andy actually got 200, and I was like,
it's because he's the son they always wanted. You know what I mean?
So, and then I have just two more quick stories. While we were on this cruise, we went to Buchart, I don't know, Bushart Gardens in I almost said in Canada. And it was the only shore excursion we all did as a family. And we're just walking around. We all split up. We were walking around together. And Brian, like, we were sitting just in the shade because it was so hot. And my dad walks, like, kind of over there. And Brian goes, "Daddy!" Like, I looked at him like, and he was like, I don't even know where that came from. Like, I hope that you guys enjoy Dad's taste in music, that Brian really ended up kind of taking over as we play through his stuff later today. Just through the Spotify playlist, you can still certainly add to that. One of the last memories I would say of my brother is he had a way of, Roxanne, where are you? Hi, oh, she's got him. Okay. So what Roxanne has in her hand, okay. My parents would have like pictures all over their house or like magnetic pictures on the fridge. And Brian would just walk by and put his picture over my picture or over Aaron's picture in that competition to be the favorite, right? So what I have for you today, and I would encourage you to take one or a couple if you would like, I have magnets of pictures of Brian that I would like to invite you to take and cover up somebody else's picture at your house. I don't know. Let Brian be your favorite for a little bit because it was our competition. So please help yourselves to some magnets before you go and make Brian the favorite.
I would say if we have a family song, this is it. And there are two John Prine songs on this set list. This is one of them, and this is one. Adria, it's such a big song in our family that Adria even got like a lyric from it tattooed on her wrist. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing really else to say to that. John Prine is definitely like our family songster, and we're really looking forward to seeing him next month. We were looking forward to going with Brian, but now we're going to go in his honor. So this one is called Paradise.
All right. Child, my family would travel down to western Kentucky where my parents were born. There's a backwards old town that so often remembered, so many times that my memories are gone. Hey, won't you take me back to down by the Green River?
I'm sorry, my son, but you're too late in asking. Mr. Peabody's coal train has hauled it away. Well, the coal well, sometimes we travel right down the Green River to the abandoned old prison down by Adria Hill, where the air smelled like snakes. We'd shoot with our pistols, but empty pop bottles was all we would kill. And Daddy, won't you take me back to Muhlenberg County, down by the Green River where paradise lay? Well, I'm sorry, my son, but you're too late in asking. Mr. Peabody's coal train has hauled it away. Where
When I die, let my ashes float down the green river. Let my soul roll on up to the Rochester Dam. I'll be halfway to heaven with paradise waiting just 5 miles away from wherever I am.
If Daddy wants to take me back to Muhlenberg County, down by the Green River where paradise lay. Well, I'm sorry, my son, but you're too late in asking. Mr. Peabody's coal train has hauled it
away. Is Tim here? Is Timmy Peterson here? Is he around? He's not here? Is he here? He didn't make it? Okay. That's all good. That's all good. Let's play another song then. This was your pick, right?
Yeah. I love this one. There's just a lot of words to it. It's uplifting, and there's a lot of words that reminded me of stuff Brian would say.
Well,
I'll be here when it all gets
too,
weird.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, Brian sang this one many, many years ago when we had a little just family sing-along at our old house across the highway there. So I love it. This is Flogging Molly's, If I Ever Leave This World Alive.
Do you say Walmarts too?
What?
You said Flogging Molly's?
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
That's like, oh, I got to go down to Walmart's.
I don't think I
Maybe
said
to
Flogging
Target's.
Molly's. Did I? I'm nervous. I'm the favorite. Mom told me. If I ever leave this world alive, I'll thank you for all the things you did in my life. If I ever leave this world alive, I'll come back down and sit beside your feet tonight. Wherever I am, you'll always be more than just a memory. If I ever leave this world alive, if I ever leave this world alive, I'll take on all the sadness that I left behind. If I ever leave this world alive, the madness that you feel will soon subside. So in a word, don't shed a tear. I'll be here when it all gets weird. If I ever leave this world alive.
Let's hear it, Abe.
So when in doubt, just call my name. Just before you go insane.
trying to think of who I'm missing. Yeah, mom's going to say some stuff here in a minute. Yeah, Mom, you want to come up and talk? Mom, you want to come up here? Everybody, please give a big round of applause to Brian's mom and our mom, Bobby Sue Howell. Hi, Mom. Oh, yeah, Grandma. That's right.
Okay, I can do this. The first thing can everyone hear me? I just want to make sure. No?
Here, I got you.
I got it. Okay, closer. The first thing I want to say is thank you, all of you. I see so many people that I haven't seen in forever. I see kids that Aaron grew up with. I see the young man who punched a hole in my door.
Hi.
Going after Adria. I see new friends that I've gone on trips with, friends that I've cruised with, friends that I dance with. I want to say thank you. I have been, Mike and I, he was supposed to be up here, but he said he couldn't do it. By the outpouring of love and support we have received from our friends, from Brian's friends, from Aaron and Adria's friends, from coworkers, from neighbors, both old and new, and from family. Your cards, messages, and donations of time, equipment, food, and money have been wonderful. They all make our hearts full and help to ease the ache. Now for my baby. Recently, and Don already told you this, recently Brian told me that his spirit animal was a pit bull, and I got it immediately. He could be gruff and intimidating when he first saw you, but he was also loyal and protective. For example, he once had a co-worker that committed suicide, and all Brian could say was he wished he'd called him first. I have a few stories I want to share with you about Brian. We were in Parent Ed preschool from the time Brian was like 1 or 2. One of his classmates was Matt Solomonson. You saw him earlier. When they got ready to go to kindergarten, the preschool teacher told us we should separate them because they were too comfortable with each other. And she said it was because they wouldn't get any work done, but I suspect it was in the interest of protecting their kindergarten teacher. The second 2 stories I have are from late adolescence. Brian was absolutely, bluntly honest. I did scouts with all of my children, and in Brian's senior year, we were in the car, and he was approaching the deadline for earning his Eagle. If you're going to earn your Eagle Scout and Boy Scout, you have to finish. You have to finish it by the time you're 18. And there's several badges that take 3 months to do, and there's a project you have to do that takes a lot of planning. Not everyone gets Eagle, and there's a reason. But we were approaching the deadline, and I was telling him he needed to get on it, and he tells me this. He says, Mom, you have a choice. I can graduate or get my Eagle. I go, what? Why can't I have both? And he responded, much to my dismay, not going to happen. The next story about him becoming straight edge. Straight edgers, in case you don't know, I have to explain it. They refrain from using alcohol, tobacco, and other recreational drugs. I was told no sex, no drugs, no promiscuous sex. That's what I was told it was, but I looked up the definition. I did say that, didn't I? Okay, no drugs, no alcohol, no promiscuous sex. Now I said it right. And I was concerned about, because it's very extreme, right? I like moderation in all things. I get not doing these things, but I like moderation. And he goes, Mom, I'm at an extreme age, this being like 18, 19, whatever it was. Isn't it better for me to be this extreme in this way than the other? How can you answer that? My final story is recent. When he moved back from Detroit, Brian lived with us for a while. I don't want smoking in my house, so Brian used to go out on the patio. This is in the middle of winter, for God's sake, here. During the winter, he would build a fire in a little dog dish this big. And he built it on top of my carpet that my sister gave me for Christmas. Well, he got a little burn hole in it. So after he put that burn spot in my rug, I went to Home Depot and bought him a chimenea. The chimenea is back here. And he started having fires in it every night. Well, his father decided that was a good idea and started joining him. Some of their best times in recent years were around that chimenea. Again, thank you so much for everything. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being my friends. Thank you for being Adria's friends. Thank you for being Aaron's friends. Thank you for being Brian's friends.
Thanks, Mom.
As we're getting my dad set up, I'll point out she said my name first because I'm the favorite.
I wasn't sure if I'd be able to speak because I was afraid I'd break down. I echo what Bobby Sue just said. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. While it doesn't ease the pain, it is really lovely to have everyone here. The story I'm going to relate involves all three kids. At one time or another, as our kids were little, in the middle of the night, I'd get a tug on my shoulder, and one bleary eye would open, and one of the three would be there and would say, "Daddy, I've had a scary dream. Could I sleep with you and Mommy? I'm scared." They always seemed to come to me because her being hard of hearing, they'd be going, "Huh, what?" So I'd say crawl over me and sleep between me and Mom, and then I would turn and I would tell them that me and Mom would not let anything enter the house that would harm them. Sadly, that wasn't true. A monster called diabetes entered our home, and I was unable to prevent it. I'm trying to make something funny, so I can just say that Adria and Aaron don't do that all that much anymore.
It would be creepy.
But all I can suggest now is that you donate some money to the diabetes research. I do also want to say that when we're done with this ceremony and we eat, it doesn't mean that we're finished and people need to leave. There's going to be too much food to eat and too much to drink, and we're staying up till the cows come home. And if you don't want to go home, if you'd like to sit around and tell Brian stories, please feel free, because we're going to be up and doing stuff. Later, I'm going to do a fire in the chimenea, and bless you all for coming to help us. Thank you.
You guys cool with us doing a couple more songs? So let me tell you how I know Brian wanted to live. Let me tell you how I know he wanted to live. He gave us 0 instructions on what to do. He gave us no preferences, no plans, and if you knew Brian, you know he was full of preferences. He was full of, well, he knew what he didn't like a lot. And he never gave us any preferences as to what he wanted to do. So we've done our best to put something together that would honor him. And this song is also about honoring wishes. It's another John Prine song. And it's funny as hell. And yeah, my Uncle Skip is going to play it. I'm going to skip playing it. I can't play anything right now. Woke up this morning, put on my slippers, walked in the kitchen and died. And oh, what a feeling when my soul went through the ceiling and on up into heaven I did rise. When I got there, they did say, John, it happened this way. You slipped upon the floor and hit your head. And all the angels say, just before he passed away, these were the very last words that you said. Please don't bury me down in the cold, cold ground. No, I'm gonna have them cut me up and pass me all around. Throw my brain in a hurricane and the blind can have my eyes. Yeah, the deaf can take both of my ears if they don't mind the size. Give my stomach to Milwaukee if they run out of beer. Put my socks in a cedar box, just get 'em out of here. Venus de Milo can have my arms, look out, I got your nose. Sell my heart to the junk man and give my love to Rose. But please don't bury me down in that cold, cold ground. No, I'm gonna have 'em cut me up and pass me all around. Throw my brain in a hurricane and the blind can have my eyes. Yeah, and the deaf can take both of my ears if they don't mind the size. Hey, you guys want to hear some fiddle? That's Braden on the fiddle. He rocks, man. Well, give my feet to the footloose, careless, fancy-free. Give my knees to the needy, don't pull that stuff on me. Hand me down my walking cane, it's a sin to tell a lie. Send my mouth way down south and kiss my ass goodbye. But please don't bury me down in that cold, cold ground. No, I'm gonna have them cut me up and pass me all around. Throw my brain in a hurricane and the blind can have my eyes. Yeah, the deaf can take both of my ears if they don't mind the size. Yeah, the deaf can take both of my ears if they don't mind the size. Well, guys, like my dad said, we're going to hang out all night. We're going to gather around. We're going to keep playing songs around the fire. We're going to eat too much food. We're going to drink too much. We're going to cry too much. We're going to laugh an inappropriate amount. And then sometime around sunset, we're going to scatter some of Brian's ashes, I think, right? Is that going to happen? Did we get the ashes yet? I don't know. Yeah, we did. All right. So sometime around sunset, we're going to scatter some of Brian's ashes, and we welcome you all to hang out with us and do that. And thank you so much for coming out, guys. It really means a lot. It's been a really hard couple of weeks, and really throwing ourselves into this is kind of what's helped us keep it together, like I said. So,
amen.
Love you too.
She loves me more.
Yeah. See, she doesn't need to like profess her love for you. I'd like to thank all the musicians. Andy Hersher, my brother-in-law, on the cajon. Abe Brennan on the git fiddle, on electric git fiddle. Braden, how do you say your last name again?
However you want.
Braden on the fiddle.
His last name is however you want.
Yeah, yeah.
Funny.
However you want. It's an old family name.
It's German.
My Uncle Skip on the guitar. My Aunt Dawn on guitar and vocals. My sister on vocals. And are you going to play ukulele or no?
No, it's not.
And Mike, I don't know your last name, brother. However you... Hey, you guys must be brothers.
Sweet.
I thought you were
Right
saying you didn't
on.
know my last name. I was like, what?
I will say real quick, we mentioned this at the top. Hug the hell out of each other, man. Hug the hell out of each other. Take lots of pictures. Burn stuff into your memory. And actually, I did write a toast for my brother that I wrote a bunch of stuff, but I had to resist the urge to, like, let the scroll down like my dad is known to do. Like, at Ty and Jesse's wedding, I must have spoke for like 15 minutes, and it really drove people nuts. But, so I'd like everybody to raise your glasses if you could. Yeah. Normally that's a problem, right? In this case, it's a good thing. So they say the good die young. And, man, if that were true, Brian should have lived to be 132. But I'll tell you what, there's roughly about 100 people here. So I want to make a deal with you guys right now, okay? Everybody put your drink up. And what we're going to do is we are going to divide the years that Brian should have lived, and everybody out here is going to live one extra year than you were planning to, okay? So everybody raise your glass and say, I.
I.
State your name.
State your name.
Yes! I was hoping for that. Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
To stay alive 1 year longer.
To stay alive 1 year longer.
Than I had initially planned.
Than I had initially planned.
In Brian's name.
In Brian's name.
Amen. Cheers, guys.
Amen.
My sister's going to sing this one, and it's beautiful. You want to drop some knowledge?
We would love that, Uncle Dan.
Oh, I would love that. Always use Uncle Dan as the closer.
Dan, Uncle Dan.
You are about to witness the strength of Uncle Dan power.
I'd just like to take this moment, and I don't think a lot of my family even knew this, but back when it was brought up about the karate and the martial arts stuff, who remembers the Ninja Turtle stuff? Oh, Brian was a Ninja Turtle from the word go. But one day I was over town. We came up and he was doing his, and he was taking the karate stuff. And I think we were downstairs doing something, and he had his, I don't remember if he had his gi on or whatever with his yellow belt. He had just become a yellow belt. And I can't remember what I was doing. I was distracted looking at something. He says, "Hey, Uncle Dan." I go, "What?" "Look what I can do." And I turned around, the little shit kicked me in the nuts. I went straight to the ground. His eyes are as big as saucers going, "I didn't mean to do that, Uncle Dan." Gives me a hug, and I said, "God, I'm glad I didn't. I don't want to see what you could do for real." And since then, he and I, that's always kind of been a secret between him and I. So I guess if one thing he could always say is, he got to kick Uncle Dan in the nuts. So I just thought I'd enlighten everybody on that one.
I love it. I love it.
The important thing to remember is he never stopped kicking Uncle Dan in the nuts.
Ooh. dreams really do come true. Ooh, someday I'll wish upon a star, wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where trouble melts like lemon drops high above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me, oh, somewhere over the rainbow. Bluebirds fly, and the dreams that you dare to, oh, I can't someday I'll wish upon a star, wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where trouble melts like lemon drops high above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me, oh, somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, and the dreams that you dare to, oh, I can't I think you guys are probably hungry. Let's eat.
Thank you very much for coming, guys. Thank you so much. We love you, Brian.